The grind, yeah, the bubble grind.
Now we have a guy that could probably get in there if you...
It's game day. The Edmonton Oilers hit the road once again.
Good afternoon. Welcome to EST Afternoons, live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports, presented by Play Alberta. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to the EST Afternoons right here on Edmonton Sports Talk across our audio streams at edmontonsportstalk.com. Tune in, iHeartRadio, not Apple Music, sorry. Still don't know. Actually, I don't think we're up on Apple Music. Thank you for watching on YouTube or listening on podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. Matty Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage, alongside Zachary Koob Kubusch for the next 2 hours. Lots to get to on the show today. You could send whatever nasty chat messages you want. You could also get in touch with us in the River Cree inbox at 780-218-9999. Happy hours, 525 drinks available Sunday to Thursday from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. I've made it my declaration. It is known on the Hangout. I want to keep the stigma for the chin strap. It's there for a reason. Go ask the majority of females what they think, and I'm sure that they will be like, yes, the stigma is there for a reason. So if you wish to be all in on something that don't look so good, feel free. You know, it's you. The Hangout is the safe space for Keep the Stigma, where we're not welcoming the Chargers. I'm busy. I don't have time to go after all of this. So feel free, do whatever you want. Put that out there. That's all. That's fine. This isn't my show. I'm not going to come here and do different things. Now, that said, maybe when I'm on the lock shop, I'll get back to it. I'll be in the lock shop a lot for the month of March. By the way, last week I was in the lock shop once. We went 2 for 2 for hits. Very happy with that. With the score, let's do it. We lost on Thursday, Friday, but we were 2 of 5, so 40%. Not terrible.
You take those.
And 4 of 7 overall for the course of the week for me, so I'm pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, on the positive.
And lock shop, I'll go for it. But in the afternoon, it's a little different. You want to focus on that ugly chin strap? That's all right. I'm going to call him ugly.
Wow. Well, Trev was in here. He was on the oil stream with Tom Gazzola, and he was trying to say that, you know, he was being a little bit sarcastic a little bit, but he was saying he's growing a modern version of a chin strap. You're not supposed to have a mustache.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Mustaches, the chin straps aren't supposed to have mustaches.
Well, like, you know, usually my mom would be very kind to me, and if usually she says, Zach, you're one handsome lad. And I'm like, well, thank you very much, Mom. If I grew out a chin strap, she would smack me in the face and call me ugly and tell me to shave it. I know that for a fact.
I won't be deleting your messages today. But just know there's a reason the stigma is there, and keep the stigma. On the show today, Stan Bowman, general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, he spoke. We'll go through a couple of his comments. I know Reed Wilkins was down at Rogers Place where Stan Bowman did speak. There's also going to be some new lines for tomorrow that Chris Knobloch did confirm. We'll also try to get, if we get the Stan Bowman video, we'll try to air it on the show today. I'm very looking forward to our guest at 1:40. We've been doing EST for about 2.5 years now. I don't do a show that could bring on out-of-town guests too often on the EST Hangout, so I am limited when I am filling in to be able to go get certain guests. This guest was a regular of the Dave Jamieson Show. I've been waiting a long time to get him back on Edmonton Sports Talk to have a conversation. He's going to stop by today at 1:40. It is Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star. We're going to talk about his experience at the Olympics. He's always very insightful, so I would love to get his take on where we go from here as the Canadian Olympic Committee, funding for athletes to get back to being stronger on the podium at the Olympics. And since he does write for the Toronto Star, we'll get his take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. At 2:20, John Hoven of mayorsmanor.com. He's a great reporter of the LA Kings. He's going to stop by. Is Jim Hiller out this past weekend? DJ Smith in on an interim basis. We'll find out why did this move happen after the All-Star break, or not the All-Star break, the Olympic break. What is our realistic expectations? We'll get John's thoughts at 2:20 on what's going on in Los Angeles, and can the Kings find a way to snake into the playoffs? 2:40. The screw it. Let's do a parlay. And as I said throughout the show, we'll get into the nasty chat. We'll get into the River Cree inbox. By the way, there is an NHL game underway. Just starting the second period, almost two minutes in. Predators Red Wings 1-1. This game, when we looked, was in Nashville. Don't know why this game's happening so early. If anyone knows, I would love to know. Why is this game being played so early out in Nashville? What's going on out in Nashville? But we have a hockey game. It's available on NHL Network in the States because we don't have NHL Network in Canada, because why would a country that cares the most about hockey have a channel dedicated exclusively to the NHL? They also got FanDuel, Sports Network, Detroit and South. It's not even on Sportsnet. We just have an NHL game, and you'd think it'd be like this is a perfect time if you're Sportsnet to be able to just air a hockey game. People go through on Sportsnet. Nope. It's not there. Why this game, though, matters, too, the Edmonton Oilers. This one, I know Penner's Pancakes. Oilers have to keep an eye on the Preds as well. They're creeping up. This game does matter. Everyone outside of Minnesota, they have games in hand on the Edmonton Oilers. The Predators have 2 games in hand. They're 4 points back. Why that matters is if the Oilers were happen to drop to a wild card spot and out of the Pacific, you want that first wild card spot. You don't want that second wild card spot, because the second wild card spot means you're off to the Central for the playoffs. You don't want that one. So the Preds, if they win tonight, all of a sudden they're only 2 points back of the Oilers with a game in hand. If you take into account all of the games in hand, and if everyone wins, I believe the Oilers drop to outside of a playoff spot. Now, I will say this one right now, you're not winning all those games in hand. That just generally doesn't happen. But that's the tight spot the Edmonton Oilers are in. Andrew Mangiapane, Alec Regula, for those that missed it, if you weren't tuned into the Oil stream, they have cleared Fabry. He is off to Minnesota, by the way. He got claimed off of St. Louis. But they have cleared, so we'll wait to see what is to come. As for defensive pairings, as I just mentioned, coming in to tomorrow for the Edmonton Oilers is they'll host the Ottawa Senators down at Rogers Place. Wallman with Bouchard, Nurse with Emberson, Ekholm with Stasny. So there's your 3 pairings that we might be seeing tomorrow. Clearly, it's hard not to believe that this is Paul Coffey putting his fingerprints on this organization with the defense. He came in, he saw a couple games, he's going this way. Casino Dealer J, today's game has a special start time to serve as a primetime broadcast for European viewers. Is that from the NHL? Because what you posted is a very specific, like it's wording, like you got it from Casino Dealer J in the nasty chat, like it's from a press release or something like that.
Yeah, I searched it up just moments ago. That's exactly from the NHL like release. They want to have it so European fans of the NHL, I guess, can tune into the Nashville Predators and Detroit Red Wings. But it is,
I like that
Bridgestone. So that's pretty cool.
Neat. But why wouldn't we have it here in Canada? People are working. People look.
You can throw on the game.
We're just coming out of the Olympics. We're a week past. People loved watching sports during the day. Who wouldn't love to just throw on a game that's not meaningful to them? We already said what it means. The Predators with them creeping in on the Oilers. But I think people would love to throw that one on. Sportsnet should have gotten that one for everyone. Here's partly of what Stan Bowman had to say, according to Reed Wilkins, who tweeted these. Stan Bowman says they'll be looking to add a player or 2, but also repeats they're capable of playing better, has mentioned playing a smarter game a couple of times. Bowman also says the Oilers' goalies can be better, but adds they're consistently putting their goalies in a tough spot. So basically, this is a good enough team. They're just not playing to their capabilities. If they play to their capabilities, they're in a better spot, but also we'd like to go add a couple of players. Do you agree with that, Nasties? Are you with that assessment? Kind of hits everything, though. I don't know. It's, we're not playing well enough. We could play better, but we need a good player to be better, but we also don't need those players to get better. It's kind of like hitting all across the place. Where are you right now when it comes to the deadline coming up on Friday? Has it changed? Last week, I think it might have been on Monday, we went with, what are your realistic trade targets that you would like to see the Edmonton Oilers go for? Well, we've now seen the Oilers play 3 hockey games. They've had 2 losses. They had a big win. Has your thoughts of how the Oilers should approach this deadline changed in any way, shape, or form? Have you thought about what the target should be? Has that shifted? Has it shifted in terms of you think this Oilers team should stay pat as opposed to maybe being more aggressive? Has your thought process gone that this team should be more aggressive or not? Where are you right now, Oiler fans, when it comes to this team? Has your feelings around the Edmonton Oilers changed over the course of this last weekend in any way, shape, or form of what they should do in advance of the 1 p.m. deadline on Friday? I would like to hear from you. That's 780-218-9999. That is in the Paris or the River Cree inbox, or you could jump into the nasty chat. Haji already texting in. Only go after players with term. This team isn't good enough to waste assets on pure rentals. Barry out in Palm Desert, California. He says, my girls have today and tomorrow off for quote-unquote winter break. Not sure if that's across the country, though, in terms of why maybe the Predators are playing. Oh, that's interesting to know. Haji, he's going with only go after players with term. Gord, I haven't seen the presser, but reading online, Bowman was putting everyone on notice in that. Coaches and all position players. Casino or X-Ray J, he has zero idea what's going on, let alone what he needs to do about it. And that's in reference to Stan Bowman also adding, think Stan, with a facepalm emoji coming when it comes to what Stan Bowman had to say. We are endeavoring to try to get the video of Stan Bowman. Oh, it's up. Oh, it's 21 minutes long. I don't think we'll be able to air it all. Koob, you think you could download that? We'll get to that one next segment. 21 minutes is way too long. Here's what we might do, because we got Bruce at 140. We got John Hoven at 220. Maybe we'll get to about 10 minutes of Stan Bowman in the next segment. And then we've got 2 o'clock. We can finish the rest of Stan Bowman if people want it. If you want to hear from Stan Bowman, maybe we'll just split him up. Kind of sandwich Stan Bowman around Bruce Arthur. But it's a full 21 minute. I know Oiler fans love to hear from the general manager. Like, you don't hear from the general manager speaking too often. So we want to hear from that one. So what we'll do is we'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll air part of Stan Bowman addressing the media. We'll see how that goes, because I haven't had a chance to fully listen to the whole thing as of yet either. If we feel like there's more to be played, we'll air the rest at 2 o'clock. Otherwise, we'll continue in the inbox and in the nasty chat. 140, Bruce Arthur, Toronto Star. 220, John Hoven, Mayor's Manor. And 240, the Screw It, Let's Do It Parlay. Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, and Joaquin Gage alongside Zachary Koob Kubusch. We'll be back with the thoughts of the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, Stan Bowman. But here's Koob with a sports update here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta. You're tuned into EST Afternoons.
For the Oilers, both Alec, Regula, and Andrew Mangiapane have cleared waivers. Mangiapane, year 1 of a 2-year deal worth $3.6 million per season. Regula, 24 years of age, has played 29 games for the Oilers this year. And a half dozen games over in the NHL, one of which underweights the Predators, and Red Wings notched a 1-aside midway through the second frame of action. And after that, Seattle hosts Carolina. Colorado visits LA. The Leafs and Flyers drop the puck while Vancouver battles Dallas. NFL news, ESPN has reported that the Commanders are set to release Marshawn Lattimore prior to the league's start of next year. Official start March 11th. Washington will save $18.5 million in cap space with that move. 4 matches live. Briar including Saskatchewan's Mike McEwen, leading Northern Ontario's Sandy McEwen 3-1 in the 8th end. Blue Jays spring training, they're live midway through the 7th against the Red Sox, tied 5-5. Actually, bottom 7th with the Jays, recording 5 runs in the 5th. NBA play Celtics and Bucks. They hit the deck. ESPN's Sham Charania reporting that Giannis Antetokounmpo will return for Milwaukee after missing the past 15 games with a calf injury. Later on, the Clippers and Warriors tip off, while Denver and Utah match up on a 4-game slate. This sports update is brought to you by Windsor Plywood Leduc. Locally owned and operated since 1993. They're more than just plywood. They offer everything from doors and flooring to decking, fencing, and custom millwork. Windsor Plywood Leduc. They're the experts you need to know. And on the other side of the break, we'll run a bit of Stan Bowman's presser. Stay tuned for that here on EST Afternoons. I'm Zachary Koob, and you're up to date.
The Nielsen Show with Lieutenant Eric.
Since Darren Drager, do you think that's kind of an avenue the Oilers could take? Obviously, it wouldn't be taking well in this city, but sometimes you just have to just shut it down and go with what you have.
Not many NHL general managers pay attention to what the fan base is saying or what the media is saying. There's been an undercurrent that has been consistent, and I'm sure Stan is feeling the same way as other general managers.
The Nielsen Show with Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton sports.
Sentinel Storage congratulates Team Canada for all their perseverance, dedication, and commitment. For representing our country so well, our athletes make us proud to call Canada home. Sentinel Storage, proudly Canadian and official storage partner of Team Canada.
River Cree Resort and Casino and K97 present the baddest show on earth. George Thorogood and the Destroyers, March 19th in the venue. Tickets at rivercreeresort.com.
River Cree Resort and Casino. Excitement. Bet on it.
Looking for flooring? Paramount Flooring has it all. Sales, service, and expert installation. With options for every style and budget, open 7 days a week. We've got you covered. Quick delivery and in-stock deals. Plus, EST listeners get 10% off. Visit ParamountFlooring.ca today.
Real fans don't stroll in at puck drop. They claim territory. They study the screens. They get into their spot, which is why this matters. The Canadian Brewhouse now has happy hour. Brand new. Tons of options. And the good stuff, like our 8-inch 2-topping RCM pizza and our signature Caesar. Monday to Saturday, 2 till 6 p.m. starting at $3.99. That's more than enough reason to come early. New happy hour at the Canadian Brewhouse. If you're serious about game day, we'll see you for happy hour.
Here on EST Afternoons, Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage. The boys will be back on EST Afternoons, though tomorrow is the morning. Boys will be back on their show tomorrow alongside Zachary Koob coming up at 1:40. Bruce Arthur, the Toronto Star, will stop by. Here's the thing. Koob's just cutting up the last little bit of getting Stan Bowman, general manager of the Oilers, media avail from today. So what we'll do is once we get that, we'll run about 9.5, 10 minutes of that. Then next segment, we'll have Bruce Arthur. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll finish off the Stan Bowman Avail 220, John Hoven of Mayor's Manor to talk some LA Kings. We're live in the William Huff studio since 1952. William Huff has provided industry-leading advertising solutions for thousands of value clients. Unparalleled customer service combined with decades of industry experience and a desire to make every job the very best it can be is what they call the William Huff Advantage. If you would like the William Huff Advantage yourself, be sure to check out their website, williamhuff.com. I'm just looking in the nasty chat here. Anything that I have missed as of not? I have not missed anything. Oh, by the way, Nashville Predators 2-1 lead over the Detroit Red Wings out at Bridgestone in Nashville. Marchessault just scoring to give the Preds the lead over the Detroit Red Wings, a game that does matter to the Edmonton Oilers when it comes to the Preds are creeping up on the Edmonton Oilers. So you're kind of cheering for the Detroit Red Wings here. Hopefully they could bounce back. As for the Edmonton Oilers, they're back in action tomorrow down at Rogers Place. They will be playing host to the Ottawa Senators. GCL Diesel Oilstream pregame show. That will get going at 6 o'clock here as Tommy and Benny will get you set for that game. Tommy, Benny, and I also are going to have a little bit of a night tonight. Heading off to Campio, as it's going to be downtown dining week here in Edmonton, March 11th through the 22nd. 69 restaurants throughout downtown will be partaking in this. Dining week offers dining deals of multi-course and multi-item meals. They're all fixed prices, so you know what you're spending before you even go in. And those prices are fixed at $15, $25, $35, $50, $65. There's lunch, there's supper / dinners, however you want to call it. Those are all deal. To find more information, EdmontonDowntown.com for more information. They also have a deal while supplies last. I haven't checked if they still have these supplies, but customers can get a $100 Edmonton Downtown gift card for only $75. So you save $25 right there. So if you know you're going to go to Edmonton Downtown Dining Week, you might as well get that gift card because you get an extra $25. And based on this first fixed pricing, that's $15 and $25. You could just right there pays for one of your extra things. So be sure, again, check EdmontonDowntown.com/dining week more specifically, which will take you right there. You'll also, on their website, 69 restaurants. You can see all the restaurants. You can see all the deals that they have for Edmonton Downtown Dining Week. They'll all be posted there. And yeah, Tommy, Benny, and I will be off to Campio, having a lovely time at Campio. We're going to sit. Oh, we're almost there. You're about to say something, though, into that microphone. As I mentioned, and we'll hear from Stan Bowman, he is saying needs more from everyone. They're capable of more. Chris Knobloch, some of the comments he made today included they need more guys, more out of the guys on the back end, which is obviously kind of part of this is obvious to say because why was Paul Coffey brought in? It's because of the defense. Casino Dealer J. Matty, will we ever see Mangiapane and Regula again? I think there's a chance you'll see Regula again. Mangiapane, if you're the Edmonton Oilers, I think it's no. I think the hope is no. They only have one more game before the deadline, tomorrow's game. Then it's the deadline on Friday. I think from an Oilers perspective, they would love to be able to just shed that cap and get it off their books and send it away. So if I had to guess, I would think Mangiapane, no. I don't think we see him again with the Edmonton Oilers. I think the Oilers find a way to get a deal and move him out. Regula, I think there's a chance. Look, if he's with clearing of waivers, if I'm not mistaken, you could jump up and down over the course of 30 days. Injuries, whatever it might be, it'd be a call-up. You ready to go?
We're ready to rock and roll.
Let's hear parts of what Stan Bowman had to say with the media in his avail a couple of hours ago down at Rogers Place. Again, here's General Manager of the Edmonton Oilers, Stan Bowman.
I guess I'll dive right in. In goals against per game, the Oilers are 26th in the NHL. So I guess the question is, what do you think the problem is? And then the follow-up leading to Friday, do you have to do something to address it, or do you think it's internally repairable?
We haven't played well defensively as a team. I think it's a number of factors, all of them contributing. It's goaltending, defense, and forwards. I think the biggest challenge for our group is, we don't put ourselves in a great spot often in games, and we score a ton of goals, and I think that's great. And if you think back to the early part of our season, we weren't scoring a lot. I think so. We've swung the pendulum probably too far one way, where we're pushing to try to make things happen, and in the process of doing that, we put ourselves in really bad spots. And I think until we learn as a team to be smarter about the way we approach the games, we're going to see a lot of highs and lows to where we look great some nights, we're scoring a lot of goals, and other nights we're giving up a ton of chances and putting our defense and our goalie in bad spots. And I think that's got to change. So that's more of a mentality shift for our group to understand what a winning brand of hockey is. And I think we see it in spurts this year, but I don't think we see it nearly consistent enough. And especially as the season progresses and the league changes around, this time of year heading into the stretch run, and there has to be a bigger commitment from our players, all of our players, to play a smarter hockey and not trying to make plays every shift. I think that's something that we've been guilty of, especially lately. But even going back to the games in late January, I think maybe it's having more respect for the game and the simplicity of the game sometimes. I think, we want to put on a show and we want to score goals. And I think we all love scoring goals. But there's two sides to it, and I think we haven't managed that very well as a team. So, yes, there's lots of details underneath that as far as players that need to play better. No question, both forwards, defense, and goalies. I don't think we've seen, but I think the bigger way to fix that, it's not going to be magical new players. It's going to be the approach that we take as a team, understanding that going through a whole period without getting a lot of scoring chances is okay if you don't give up a lot. And I think that's what happens in playoff hockey. And I think our team has shown the maturity to play that way when the games matter the most. I think right now we haven't been dialed in enough and committed enough to play that way. And that's what's causing us a problem most recently.
I'm also wondering, could you explain your perspective of Paul Coffey coming back, your hopes, and maybe where that originated, the idea originated for him to come back?
Yeah, at the break, I had conversations with Chris. It's kind of a unique situation to have a break in February. You never have a couple weeks off like that. Normally you have a day or two between games. We weren't playing well heading into the break, and I think it was obvious that we had to do something to change our group. And in talking to Chris, that idea came up. Chris brought it up to me and said, "Do you have any thoughts?" And then we talked it through, and I think, I look back at Paul's contributions last year. And his perspective, I think he was involved with our team this whole year, but not in a detailed way, like with the coaching staff day to day. And then talking to Paul, I felt that he could add something to our group. And I think when you add it all up, he's familiar with our guys because he was here the last 2 years. But he also then had some distance the last few months from our group. So that combination, I think, is good. When you're not behind the bench, you sometimes have a different view on things. And so I thought I was kind of in agreement that it was something to help our group. And just talking to Paul this morning about what I just was talking about, and I think he sees that as the coach too. And I think, that we have to have a different mentality to be more successful. So that's kind of how it all came to be.
How confident are you that you'll be able to find some cap space to meaningfully improve this team before the end of the week?
I think we'll be able to do some things. And I like I said, it'd be nice to bring a player or two in, I think, but also the biggest way we're going to be a better team is we got a lot of good players here, and it's a talented group. I think there's more from within. That's probably the way that we're going to become a better team. Certainly adding a player or two is something we're looking for, and I think it can be helpful. But it's not like it's going to completely change the fortunes of our team. We've got a lot of really good players here, and it's that commitment from our group to playing smarter hockey, winning hockey, I think, is going to probably pay the biggest dividends. But yes, always looking to add a player or two. I think we've been able to do that the last few years, and they've made contributions, positive ones, and I'm hopeful that we can do that this year too.
There's a lot of talk out there, and I'm not sure if you'll comment on this, but that you guys might be looking to add on the blue line. I just wonder about that trade you made when you had to move Brett Kulak out to create that space Obviously, Stastny comes in, but did the net result end up being a bit more of a step back on the blue line than maybe you were expecting, given that you're now potentially adding on that front?
No, because I think if looking at where we are now, I think Spencer's played well for us. I don't think Spencer versus Kulak is really the issue. It's more maybe a different type of player coming in there. If we're going to add somebody, we might add a defenseman, we might add a forward. I don't know at this point. I think we've had conversations on both of those, but I don't see that being the issue. I think it's if you're adding a defenseman, you can never have too many D going into a playoff run. So it's I wouldn't really agree with that portrayal of it. I think it's really something that our group has struggled to have the right mentality. So adding a new player to our mix would be good, but I guess I don't equate it the same way.
That's GM Stan Bowman of the Edmonton Oilers. Probably jumping out of that in an extra minute. I don't know if we'll play Stan Bowman now at 2 o'clock. The reason for that is Elliot Friedman has tweeted, hearing talks are intensifying for Edmonton to acquire Connor Murphy from Chicago. So I think next segment, I'll have Bruce Arthur, Toronto Star. We'll try to find out more details of what's to come. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll just be going into reaction when it comes to this trade. Obviously, a lot more to come. 3 to 6, the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne. Not as much of no need to continue, Lars. I get where that sentence is. No, it wanted to give you that news that it looks like the Edmonton Oilers talks are intensifying. So Friedman's not saying it's done, but usually when he tweets those type of things, we're rather close to a deal being announced. So we're going to take a quick time out here on EST Afternoons. Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage. We'll get to a Koob Sports update. On the other side, Bruce Arthur, the Toronto Star, and hopefully at some point during Bruce or near the end of Bruce, we'll have the exact details of what's going on, or is something going to happen. And then 2 o'clock, we will discuss it right here on EST. Your thoughts on the idea of a Connor Murphy to the Edmonton Oilers. River Korean Box, Nasty Chat. Let's get to a Koob Sports update here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta.
Both Alec, Regula, and Andrew Mangiapane have cleared waivers for the Oilers. Mangiapane in year one of a 2-year deal worth $3.6 million per season. He has 14 points in 52 games played, while 24-year-old Regula has 29 games in Edmonton this year. Half a dozen games around the league today, one of which underway from Nashville. The Predators and Red Wings tied at 2 aside. Predators going on a 2-minute power play. 5:02 left in the second. Lucas Raymond with the most recent goal in the game there for Detroit. After that, Seattle plays host to Carolina. Colorado visits LA. The Leafs and Flyers drop the puck, while Vancouver battles Dallas. And 4 matches live at the Brier, including Saskatchewan's Mike McEwen leading Northern Ontario's Sandy McEwen 4-1 in the 9th, and Northern Ontario with the hammer. Blue Jays spring training bottom 8th. Toronto down 7-5 against the Red Sox. 2 runs in the 8th for Boston. All 5 runs for Toronto coming in the 5th. And over in the NBA Association for the Celtics and Bucks tonight, Milwaukee's Giannis Antetokounmpo is set to return, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. He's been out the past 15 games with a calf injury. Bruce Arthur from the Toronto Star checks in on the other side of the break. I'm Zachary Koob, keeping you in the loop.
EST Hangout.
If you came in and said Hernan and Gage were very positive to start the show, I would leave this room, go to Hernan, and be like, Hernan, we need to figure this out. Yes. What is wrong with you today? What went wrong today? Like, why are you so positive? Like, because you clearly are sick. Do you need to go home today, Hernan?
The EST Hangout, presented by Sentinel Storage. Weekday mornings 9 to 11, only on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports.
Hey Edmonton, did you know a local Play Alberta winner scored over $430,000 on Desert Fantasy? Think about the rec room you could build with that kind of cash. From major casino winners every hour to jackpots worth millions and hundreds of popular games to money that stays in the province, there has never been a better time to sign up for Play Alberta. Download the app today to get started with casino, sports, and lottery, all in one app. Must be 18 plus to play. When you gamble, use your game sense.
Edmonton, be part of history. Support Canada Soccer's men's national team as they battle Uzbekistan in the final send-off series ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Monday, June 1st at 7 p.m. at Commonwealth Stadium. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.ca.
At Firehouse Subs, our subs are freshly toasted, stacked high, and crafted to satisfy. Each sub is piled high with premium meats, melty cheese, and toasted to perfection. Firehouse Subs brings bold flavor to every bite, all served on a freshly toasted roll. But we're not just feeding Edmonton, we're fueling it. Dig into the brisket hat trick, piled with slow-smoked brisket and melty cheese. Or go to the Firehouse Subs fan favorite, the Hook and Ladder. Made to order with smoked turkey, honey ham, and Monterey Jack cheese on a perfectly toasted roll. With 15 Firehouse Sub locations across Edmonton and the greater area, it's easy to grab a hot and hearty sub close to home. Firehouse Subs. Hot, hearty, made to satisfy.
Time for a new career in 2026? Or maybe your kid is still pondering their path. Good news! Weiss Johnson is hiring. Hi, it's Dennis, and not only are we hiring for heating and air conditioning, we're also looking for experienced plumbers and gas fitters. With the growth in residential development, there's no shortage of opportunities at Weiss Johnson. Choose your path with us. Learn from one of the industry leaders, and we will grow together. Receive great benefits and school reimbursement as well. Visit weiss-johnson.com today.
Looking for quality building materials and friendly advice? Visit us at Windsor Plywood Leduc, family owned and locally run since 1993. From interior materials for doors, flooring, baseboards, and all the finishing touches to all you need for your outdoor projects like cedar lumber for decks and fences, plus all the plywood you'd need. Our full-time on-staff carpenter can help with anything odd-sized or custom, and from domestic hardwoods to exotic selections, we've got you covered. And if we don't have it, we'll track it down for you. Windsor Plywood Leduc. We're the experts you need to know.
Back here on EST Afternoons, Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage alongside Zachary Koob Kubusch. Okay, so here's the latest on the Oilers. They've loaned to Bakersfield Mangiapane and Alec Regula. They've recalled from Bakersfield Josh Szymanski, Isaac Howard. They've placed on LTI Matthias Janmark. And Elliot Friedman says that the Edmonton Oilers talks are intensifying to acquire Connor Murphy from Chicago. Connor Murphy, 32-year-old defenseman. This is his last year on a deal, $4.4 million. So he is at this moment a 32-year-old right-shot defenseman who's purely a rental, if that were to be the case. So that's what we're looking at. In the 2 o'clock hour, we'll get your full reaction, your full thoughts to what's going on. And we'll see if the Edmonton Oilers are closer to getting this deal done. And if nothing's happened, like I might grab Benny or there's people around. We'll see what's going on. But it's... and then this from Dave Pagnotta. Janmark having surgery on Wednesday, out for the rest of the regular season. Up next here on our Oil Country Towing hotline, this guest on Tuesdays, 1 o'clock, was probably some of the most intelligent sports radio you will have heard here in Edmonton. Dave Jamieson would have this guest on every Tuesday, 1 o'clock. Always loved the call, always loved filling in for Dave, always loved listening to this conversation. Toronto Stars, Bruce Arthur, he joins. I've been wanting to get him on EST for as long as we started this, so I'm glad we're able to get this done today. Bruce, it's wonderful to see you. It's wonderful to have you on the show. I was just on the phone with Dave Jamieson before the show today. He passes on a big hello, and he says he misses you. How are things, Bruce? I never like to start interviews with how are you, but for you, how are things?
You are one of the 3 people in Alberta who probably thinks I'm smart, but that is great. No, Matt, it is always a pleasure to talk to you, and always my best to Dave. I loved those segments, man. Just one of my most fun 15 minutes of every week.
Yeah, we would just go everywhere. It was great. And like I said, it was just, we were like, what I remember about those ones were like, yeah, they would at times be hockey. We talk Leafs, we talk Oilers, all that. But we would go through a lot of other places. And like even like I remember having discussions with you about COVID in like early February and the IOC. And that's kind of where those segments went, which was a lot of fun. And it wasn't something that kind of was done here. But let's jump in. You were just in Italy. How was the Olympics from your perspective? Because you've covered quite a few Olympics. How was this Olympics for you?
It was very different from what you see on television. I guess it always is, but in this case, it was more so because this was the first of what's called a dispersed Olympics. We've had years of the Olympics leaving white elephants in towns. I mean, Calgary has an Olympic park, which has been, not rotting for the last 40 years, but it has begun to rot, right? There's a significant reinvestment needed in terms of Calgary's Olympic facilities to bring some of them back up to full value. But that was happening across the world, right? And so what's happened now is the IOC is willing to accept bids because it can't find places to go in which the bid doesn't really build anything new. So in Italy, you had Milan, you had the hockey, you had long track speed skating, short track speed skating, figure skating, and the main press center and the bulk of the journalists. Then you had 4 separate mountain areas. And they were far from each other, far from Milan. You could not get there easily and back in a day. And so what you had is you had silos. You had an Olympics which was spread all over Italy. So imagine if you had a Vancouver Olympics, except that this is a bit of an extreme example, except that most of the mountain events were happening in the Rockies, right? Like it doesn't work as the same thing. You lack an Olympic spirit. Milan itself is a wonderful city. I'd go back in a second. But it was different because you don't get that same feeling of an Olympic city of people coming together. It still looks the same on television. It looked wonderful on television from everything I saw in the brief windows I saw of it. But what you also had at these Olympics was this was the first Winter Olympics since COVID. That 2022 Beijing Olympics was one of the worst professional experiences of my life, just in terms of how difficult it was to be in what was essentially a sports prison. This one was lovely. This one was still people coming together. It still, despite being dispersed, was something that felt like it came out of an old world, right? Like everyone I talked to who was up in the mountains, those were like, that was like Innsbruck, right? That was like Albertville. It was like Lillehammer. It was these tiny little places where people came together, where everyone you see in the village, in this alpine mountain village, is part of the Olympics. But there are people within the IOC who are wondering whether or not this is the last Olympics with real snow. Right? That's the kind of conversations that are happening too. So what I came away from with this Olympics is that there were fewer media. Washington Post gonged a sports section right before we got there. There was an almost bygone era feeling to some of it. And remember, the next Olympics we're going to is Los Angeles, right before what would presumably be a presidential election in November of 2028. And no one in the world knows what it's going to be like between here and then, and no one knows what it's going to feel like then. But the possibility of this being one of the most disastrous, awful Olympics in history is on the table. So Italy, in contrast, was amazing.
I like how you said presumably. That's for another conversation, though. Well, from a sporting perspective, it didn't feel like there was any real, like, outside of the curling, no real controversies. That for the most part, like, this was, it also went well from that perspective. No real doping scandals or anything. Do you feel the same?
Except for one thing, Vladislav Herevich, banning the Ukrainian slider who wanted to wear the helmet with basically the faces of not just the dead from the Russian-Ukraine war, but with dead athletes, some of which were masters of sport, were national champions, some of which were 12-year-old gymnasts, right? It was kind of a master stroke in terms of putting the IOC in a really uncomfortable situation, and the IOC responded. That was the only other real scandal, I would say. The curling scandal was amazing. It ate a huge part of the Olympics bandwidth. It broke contain, as you always kind of like to say. And the fact that rink came back to win gold was truly remarkable. The fact that Rachel Hoven broke through to win bronze, her first medal in 3 games, was also remarkable. It was a really Canadian curling Olympics. And beyond that, like, the controversy probably came at the end when the American men's hockey team had Kash Patel, the FBI director, in their locker room and took a FaceTime call with Donald Trump, who denigrated the U.S. women's team, who had also won gold. That's probably the one that, if we look back on these Olympics, that and Ukraine are the two we'll probably remember.
The new president of the IOC, Kirsty Coventry, I believe is the name. Mm-hmm. Is she the right person for the IOC at this moment?
It's a really good question. It's too early to say. I've talked to people who dealt with her, and they were very impressed by her. She's very direct. She was able to walk in any room and deal with people. She is trying to put the Olympics on a slightly different path, not just the dispersed Olympic model. So when we go to Nice in 4 years, it'll be a very similar Olympic model. That's because Vancouver, by the way, could have had the Olympics, and David Eby, the premier of BC, basically, after everything had been agreed to, knocked it out. We could have had a Vancouver Olympics in 2030. It's a real shame. But also, Coventry's trying to make the IOC non-political, and what that effectively means, more than anything, is it means bringing Russia back into the fold. Russia's been out of the Olympic movement for one cycle, but had been getting punished, in my view, consistently, not enough, since the biggest state-sponsored doping scandal in history, the 2014 Sochi Games, and in the years before that. They doped the Paralympics. They doped the World University Games. They doped everybody. They were never adequately punished for that. But they have been out of the Olympic movement since invading Ukraine, since Beijing, basically. They're going to bring them back. They're going to bring them back, despite the fact, I've heard that there is some stuff bubbling out there that could make Russia look really bad. Right before the closing, right before Kirsty Coventry's closing press conference, the New York Times reported that the head of RUSADA, Russia's anti-doping agency, was actually a huge player in that state-sponsored doping scam. Well, that's a problem. That's how Russia works. Russia is a malign force in a lot of ways, and in the sporting movement as much as anything, almost. So how Coventry and whether Coventry actually manages that and the effect of it, I think that's probably deleterious to the Olympic movement over time. Then she's got bigger problems. She's got sponsorship. They have less money in sponsorship than they've had before. They're having harder times finding places to put the games. They just went on a run where they went to Tokyo, went to Paris, and they're going to Los Angeles. These are world giant cities, right? And then where do you go after that? Like 2036 is looking like a real question mark after Brisbane, Australia for 2032, the Summer Games. There's huge challenges here, and I'm not sure. I don't think anyone knows yet if she's the right person for the job. All I can tell you is it's a really difficult job.
Or as Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star. Okay, at the end of the Olympics, the Canadian Olympic Committee, they had a presser. And often those pressers are a little more positive in talking about how the athletes. This one wasn't that. This one, alarms were raised. Where do we go from here to try to improve the funding and get better results at these Olympics?
Really good question. So I've been to a lot of these things, and you're right. They usually, because Canada, especially the Winter Games, we do pretty well. We've been a consistent top 5 nation since Albertville, right? Since the 1990s. Like Vancouver, we always look at this high water mark. It wasn't. It was a continuation of we've been excellent at Winter Games for a really long time. And this time we went backwards. I think we were tied for 9th in total medals. And what the COC would tell you is, 1, 3/4 of our athletes were 30 or older and had been to multiple Olympics. 2, there's a thinning athlete pool coming. We don't have enough athletes coming. Take a look at long track speed skating, for example. It's been actually the #1 medal winner for Canada at the Winter Games historically. We saw the end of a generation in Milan. Isabelle Weidman, Iwanyk Blondy, Valerie Malte, Ted Jan Blumen, and Laurent Brunet. Like all this is basically their last games, and there's no one in the pipeline behind them, and that's happening across sports because basically core funding from the federal government hasn't increased since 2005, and what we're seeing is with more sports, with inflation hitting the areas that actually hurt sports, accommodation, travel, that kind of stuff. It's all of a sudden there's a funding crisis across the federations across Canada. So what basically the COC asked for, they called it a crisis. They said they're a nation in decline when it comes to sports. They asked for another $140 million in funding based off a Deloitte study that they commissioned on top of the $220 million that they basically get. So like a really big jump. The problem you get is if you look at the state of the country right now, there's a lot to spend money on. Right? My personal theory of Canada is we kind of didn't pay all our bills for the last 20 to 50 years. And so you wind up having to pay money in terms of your military, in terms of housing, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education, in terms of healthcare. There's all these areas where we've kind of let it go for a long time, and now the bills are coming due. So how does sport fit into that? My argument on sport for that would be that sport is important in the context of this kind of some of the central issues that are happening in Canada right now. The idea of sovereignty, the idea of soft power, the idea of international cooperation, all things that Canada needs desperately right now. I think sport is a part of that. I wish we were hosting the 2030 Olympics. I really do. Not just because Vancouver is my hometown, because I think it would be good for Canada to be able to project ourselves in the most positive way and build better relationships and do all kinds of things that were positive in that regard. And so that's how I view sport. And that's where I think it is a worthwhile investment. You can't just throw money at them. There's all this other stuff. We still have to have safe sport, all of that. But I've never seen the Canadian Olympic Committee that worried. And there's data to back up the worry. So we probably need to have a conversation in this country among all the other conversations that we're having about how important is sport. And again, my argument is it's maybe more important than we think.
Is the easiest way to get that funding then to, like, from a PR perspective, to get the Olympics then? Because then we're already throwing money at these Olympics. Might as well throw the money at the federations.
Well, you know what the shame of Vancouver is Vancouver had most of the venues already, right? Vancouver 2030 would have worked really well. There was actually an athletes village that was going to be built on the west side of town, a First Nations development. That's actually the biggest challenge in Vancouver because the real estate is so difficult. So we could have done that, and it would have provided, as you say, Matt, that spur to invest more money, right? That did happen in advance of 2010. There was B210 private funding. There was Own the Podium was created then. There was a lot of funding kind of models that were built out of 2010, as much as we didn't get a huge increase. But we did get an increase in terms of athlete funding. So yeah, it would be great. Now, the COC has said 2038 belongs to the Swiss. If they want it, if they want the 2038 games, 2034 is Utah. The COC has said, if they don't want it, we're right here. We're ready to have a games. And it actually might be Alberta because Alberta's government has been more receptive to an Olympics than has BC's. So that would be one of the big reasons the federal government, even under Trudeau, supported the idea of a 2026 Calgary Games, was that it would help spur the infrastructure that the city so sorely needs, right? So they're saying that could happen, and the Swiss will put everything to a referendum. So that's something to keep an eye on for future. But yeah, an Olympics does two things. One, it allows you to spend money on infrastructure and sports programs that you otherwise wouldn't. And usually you get a home nation bump. The Italians finished, second in total medals in Milan, which is unbelievable. I have thoughts on that. We could talk about it at a later date. I couldn't say them at the time in Italy. They might get me thrown out of the country. The other thing is it allows the country to have a real rallying point. Like I think we all remember 2010. 2010 would have been, I still say to this day, would have been a rallying point for the country, even if Sidney Crosby doesn't score the goal. Sidney Crosby scoring the goal takes it to a whole nother level because half the country's watching. But it still was something. We don't have that many things that tie us together as a nation anymore. Fewer and fewer. Hockey's one of them. Sports is one of them. An Olympics can be one of them. And our athletes can be one of them. Like, I don't know about you. I mean, I would do this anyway, but I think a lot of people, as much as there is regional rivalry in this country and differences in this country, you don't not cheer for a Canadian athlete because they were born in Quebec or Alberta or Newfoundland or BC or Ontario or anywhere, right?
I think we just had a Bruce freeze there. I know where he was going, though, with that one. That's a shame. But he's right. I'll finish Bruce's thoughts there just because I know where he's going. Wherever the person is, you're cheering for them. Doesn't matter where they're, once they put on the maple leaf, they're Canadians, they're nothing else. And so I was actually going to ask him quickly, too, what his quick thoughts were on Italy. I've really been intrigued by that one. I'm not going to have to get that one on its own.
Yeah, he hasn't.
That's okay. I'll shoot him a quick text and say that we just lost him at that last second there. I miss that. That
was wonderful.
That brings me back. I've
never actually heard him.
He is one of the most thoughtful guests that I think we ever had at 1260. Put a lot of thought into his answers and just wonderful. And we would go conversations that just weren't the typical conversations you have with most people. And that's why I greatly did it. I appreciate it. And also, in the same time, it wasn't me for the most part asking questions. It was a guy named Dave Jameson. And so when you put those two guys together, the magic that was done was wonderful.
Couple of brainiacs. Do you want me to ask him to maybe reload for one more question? He's still in the chat. He can see the stream.
If he has time quickly, yeah. If he can. If not, you can say farewell.
Okay, well, he did say Italy was great. I will go back, spent one day in Rome, and you can really see why they say Rome wasn't built in a day. I'll get him up here. He's reloaded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. He's back. Okay, Bruce, you just froze at the as you're talking about. It's the Alberta internet here. Maybe there's some of the independent people maybe don't want you to finish that thought, but we don't we cheer for all of our athletes. Doesn't matter where they are. Once they wear the maple leaf, that's where you're going.
Exactly right. And I watched myself freeze and watched you talk. You're doing great. But yeah, no, that was it. Is that it matters where a Canadian comes from within the country, but it doesn't matter where they come from within the country, right? Yes. It informs who they are. A lot of, especially winter athletes, it happens because you have access to the facilities, right? Whether you're a cross-country skier, whether you're a slider, whether or not you're a freestyle skier, you wind up near the places where you can do that. You can't do that everywhere in the country, but there are places that you can. So geographically, it does matter. But can you tell me how many people were from any given province on either one of our national hockey teams? Because I can't. I never do that math, right? You could split it up by population of each province. Ontario's 40% of the country, all of that. But it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. And honestly, I think I used to kind of scoff at these arguments a little bit. Not those arguments that a Canadian's a Canadian, but that sports brings us together necessarily. Because, take a look at our hockey conversation. It doesn't. We love hockey. Every NHL market hates every other NHL market to differing degrees. It is 7 completely separate tribes. But Team Canada is a different thing. And more as the world changes, as the country changes, I think it's more and more important to remember that we all have more in common than we have in terms of differences.
I will have to get this thoughts from you another time. It's on the Italian medals. That's what I'll have to get to sometime. Bruce, thank you very much for the time. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it. And hopefully down the line, we could do it again at some point.
Matt, it's always my pleasure, buddy.
Bruce Arthur, Toronto Star, right there on the Oil Country Towing hotline. For Oil Country Towing, Edmonton's most trusted 24/7 roadside rescue team. Call 780-986-6088 for all your towing needs. Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, and Joaquin Gage here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta. We'll take a short time out. On the other side, we'll continue with the Edmonton Oilers. I haven't seen that the deal has gone through or anything, but Connor Murphy to the Edmonton Oilers. Is this happening? That's all to come here on EST following a Koob Sports update.
The Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne.
What if Ingram keeps playing like this? And again, that's why he's the wild card. He's the most important player. And also, once you get into the postseason, it does kind of take on a life of its own.
The problem is, can the management see past that and realize that there's $5,375,000 parked on the bench every night? If they can find a suitor for Tristan Jarry, they would gladly take it now.
I don't know if anybody's taking Jarry.
The Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne, weekday afternoon 3 to 6, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton sports.
The road to the FIFA World Cup runs through Edmonton. See Canada Soccer's men's national team before they take on the world this summer. Canada versus Uzbekistan. June 1st, 7 p.m., Commonwealth Stadium. Tickets at Ticketmaster.ca.
You've heard the name, but what does it mean? For over 66 years, William Huff Advertising has supplied signage from screen printing to digital to LED with design, production, and install in-house. It's a one-stop shop for all your signage needs. Edmonton owned and operated, William Huff has been trusted by the biggest companies and teams in the City of Champions and many others across the country to do the job. If you're looking for a way to get the word out about your company or event, they are the answer. Go to www.williamhuff.com. Their results speak for themselves.
River Cree Resort and Casino at K97 present the baddest show on earth. George Thorogood and the Destroyers, March 19th in the venue. Tickets at rivercreekresort.com.
River Cree Resort and Casino. Excitement. Bet on it.
Real fans don't stroll in at puck drop. They claim territory. They study the screens. They get into their spot, which is why this matters. The Canadian Brewhouse now has happy hour. Brand new, tons of options, and the good stuff like face-off fried pickles and steins of Bud Light. Monday to Saturday, 2 till 6 p.m. starting at $3.99. That's more than enough reason to come early. New happy hour at the Canadian Brewhouse. If you're serious about game day, we'll see you for happy hour.
Some trade rumors involving the Oilers with the team recalling Iwanyk and Josh Szymanski from the Condors. They've also signed Andrew Mangiapane and Alec Regula to the AHL. Other news, Mattias Janmark has been placed on long-term injured reserve, and according to the fourth period's David Pagnotta, Janmark will have surgery Wednesday and will miss the remainder of the regular season. A total of 6 games in the NHL. At second intermission, the Red Wings lead the Predators 3-2. Later, the Kings and Avalanche face off. Zach Dooley, manager of editorial content for the Kings, stating that Drew Doughty will not play tonight while Yoel Armia undergoes an MRI. Another key matchup tonight, it's Seattle playing host to Carolina at 8 o'clock. NFL news, ESPN reporting that the Commanders are set to release Marshawn Lattimore with the move. Washington will save $18.5 million in cap space. And the Jays, they fell 7-5 to the Red Sox spring training. Tomorrow, the Jays with an exhibition game against Team Canada as Canada gets prepped for the World Baseball Classic starting Wednesday. To the association, Celtics and Bucks, they hit the deck. As per ESPN champ Giannis Antetokounmpo will return from a 15-game hiatus. He was out with an injured calf. We also see the Clippers and Warriors matching up while Denver and Utah hit the deck on a 4-game slate. I'm Zachary Koob Kubusch. That was your sports update. Hour 2 of EST Afternoon starts right now.
Back here on EST Afternoons, Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage here in Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. 204 here in Edmonton right now, -10. Wind chill feels like -14. Supposed to get to -3 though today. Come on, temperatures. We got some flurries that keep coming on and off. Tomorrow -9, Wednesday -7, Thursday +2, Friday +5, Saturday +6, Sunday 0. 15 minutes away from John Hoven, Mayor's Manor, joining us. We got the Skirt. Let's do a parlay at 2:40. For those watching YouTube, you'll see Benny sitting next to me. We'll bringing him in, talk a little bit about the news of the Edmonton Oilers. Just going to run through a few things there. Puckpedia. So the Oilers, Mattias Janmark, LTIR, Szymanski, Howard, they've been called up. Mangiapane and Regula, they've cleared. They've been loaned down to Bakersfield. They can now add $1.45 million in cap space, and Szymanski, Howard will only take up their cap hits, not their AAV, which includes performance bonuses, while the team is on LTIR. And Dave Pagnotta said that Janmark's going to be on LTIR for the rest of the season, or he's going to have surgery Wednesday, will be out for the rest of the season. So that is all to come. One of the reasons bringing Benny in and why we're not playing the rest of the Stan Bowman press conference is while we're playing Stan Bowman, Elliot Friedman did say hearing talks are intensifying for Edmonton to acquire Connor Murphy. Once again, Connor Murphy, a 32-year-old right-shot defenseman, or right-side defenseman, I should say. Well, he's a right shot too anyways. $4.4 million cap space, or a cap hit for the rest of the season. Then we'll be an unrestricted free agent. Figured bring Benny in. Your thoughts on Connor Murphy possible idea?
I think it's a proper fit for this team. I mean, I brought him up, I think it was on the Saturday game against San Jose. The Oilers have had their defensive problems, but adding a guy like this definitely doesn't hurt them. I am very curious to see, when this trade gets done, the return that Chicago will get. But in terms of Connor Murphy, very solid right shot defenseman that's good in his own end. Can move the puck decently well. Expiring deal, obviously, at a $4.4 million cap hit. So They'll have to retain 50, I'd imagine. And I mean, Mangiapane probably going the other way, I would say. But, it's a solid fit. I would think that they're going to split up that Walman-Nurse pairing because that's it's been way too chaotic and way too, defensive liability. They're too big of defensive liabilities. And Connor Murphy, I think, could stabilize one of Nurse or Walman. But to me, again, I said it on Saturday, and I'll say it again because it seems like this trade will go through. This doesn't fix all their problems. It still won't. It'll help. It will help.
Do you like this move? Like, are you re-signing Connor Murphy for next year?
Depends on his cap hit. Depends how much he wants.
See, and that's where I'm not sold. Like, this isn't a move that is easy for me to see that it's next year. So you're going for a rental.
Yeah.
Is this team going for a rental right now?
Yeah, I mean,
it depends what's going out.
I'll say this: is it done?
Well, let me take a look.
I have a buddy out in Chicago who is actually weirdly connected. I know him for video games, but he's talked to Chicago people for a long time.
Well, I've got the deal.
Here we go. Okay, well, it's perfect.
Well, thank you for those saying it. Specs here, and Connor Murphy moves to the Oilers for a second round pick with half of his 4.4 being retained. So it's 2.2 coming here of Connor Murphy. Well, not just 2.2 of him. He's coming here with only 2.2 on the cap, and it's for a second.
Okay. I don't mind that. Second round pick it's pricey. You got to get them to retain 50% on Murphy. It would be really nice if the Oilers were able to re-sign him and turn the second round pick into a defenseman that doesn't just last the remainder of the season. But again, though, he doesn't fix all the Oilers' problems on the back end. I think he will help. If he can stabilize one of Nurse or Walman, great. But he's, in Chicago, I believe he's only a -3, which on that team is pretty. Yeah, he's -3, 13 points in 60 games. You're not going to get him to play your power play or anything. He's going to be a guy that's going to be on your penalty kill, and you just want him to be reliable in his own end. The only guy right now I've been saying in their top 4 that has been 100% reliable in his own end, and even then he's had his gaffes this year, is Mattias Ekholm, and Father Time is catching up to him. So getting a safe defenseman was always something I've been advocating for this team if they were going to go get one, and Connor Murphy I think fits the bill. So second round pick is not that bad.
Yeah, and then Scotty knows 2026 second. Don't know the year, but I would imagine it's a 2026 because I don't know why you would jump to a 2027 for this year's.
Yeah. You want to keep everything.
If they move if it's this year's second round pick, that means they only have a 3rd, a 6th, and a 7th for this year's draft. Because they don't have a 1st, they don't have a 4th, and they don't have a 5th. Also, Connor Murphy ranks 3rd among all defensemen this season in Evolving Hockey's defensive war model. For anyone that understands that or follows that stuff, he ranks 3rd apparently.
That's pretty good. That's for all the advanced analytic guys. They're very high on him, but at the same time, though, they were very high.
I got more.
Okay.
This is from Frank Saravalli. It's not expected to be formally completed until later tonight, but this is what has been agreed upon. Connor Murphy, 50% retained, a second in 2028.
Whoa. Okay.
So the Oilers would still have their second this year. They would still have their second in 2027, but they would no longer have their second in 2028, which that year they actually have 2/3 already. So you can maybe flip those up. Is your hand up for a reason? Oh, I thought you wanted to say something there, Koob. It looked like his hand was up too. Okay. Yeah. I thought you were going to jump on with that one. So there you go. The Edmonton Oilers, it doesn't look like it'll happen until later tonight, but they'll have pairings of Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Murphy, Walman, Emberson.
Yep. Rotate Stastny in there.
Is that good enough? And I guess part of that is what's good enough.
Yeah, that's a great point. Again, like I've said, I went on a little bit of a rant Saturday that Stan Bowman chose this decor to be his decor. Like he put assets, and this is the top 4 that he put together was Walman, Bouchard, Nurse, and Walman. Ekholm, Bouch, Nurse, and Walman. And 3 of the 4 of them are very problematic and high risk defensemen. You can have 1 or maybe 2 of those defensemen. To me, you can't have 3. Nurse, Wallman, Bouchard, none of them are getting traded. They have no moves. They asked Nurse to waive his no move over the offseason. He said no, and why would they move? But to me, you need to surround those guys with very, very strong defensive defensemen. Connor Murphy is one of them, so that is nice. But again, though, I've said I don't know if this team has it to go all the way this year. Connor Murphy doesn't change.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Connor Murphy doesn't change the trajectory of this team over like a whole lot. It will be, he'll help, but it's not going to me, change the overall outcome, I don't think.
We're calling with Rob in the River Cree inbox, 780-218-9999. Tap 25 restaurant, 50% off the entire menu. Available 7 days a week, 2 until 5 p.m. Connor Murphy's also injury prone. He's only played one season over 68 games in the last 8 seasons. I hope he stays healthy. You look at his numbers. This year, 60 games. I don't know how many games the Blackhawks have played, though. It would be around 60 games.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Yeah, let me check.
Because the others are at 61 with Minnesota, so I think Chicago's at 60 games. So at least there's a point this season, knock on wood, for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah. The Chicago Blackhawks have played 60 games this year.
He's been 100% healthy with the Blackhawks this season. Last year, 68. Year before, 46. Then 80. Then 57, 50, 58. But we're in COVID years a little bit there. 52 prior to that. So I don't know if it's, it's not like you're talking about a guy who's out for the entire season.
No.
Your thoughts, Nasty Chat, as well, if you are fully welcoming this. Amish Man 19, definitely an upgrade and should help them in their own end. Hopefully he's not too slow as he is aging. To what happened, I've missed it. To the man, it's for those just tuning in. It's not done. Frank Saravalli does say it'll happen later tonight, but the Oilers get Connor Murphy from the Blackhawks in exchange for a second-round pick in 2028. Murphy coming 50% retained. So now what do the Oilers do the rest of this week, or what would you like to see from them the rest of this week?
Okay, well, you taxed defensively, which is good. That was, in my opinion, the number one thing they need to add. Now it's a third-line center. Adam Henrique is not a third line center anymore. He's simply aged out. He's in my opinion, come playoff time, he could be your 13th forward. Honestly, I think Curtis Lazar adds more than Adam Henrique right now. But Trent Frederick has come along a little bit, so maybe he kind of becomes the guy. He's had a solid 3 games after the break, but still, I don't trust that. I think if you can go grab a third line center for cheap, it's gonna be tough to do, but. Obviously I think Oilers fans would dream of getting like Boone Jenner or something. I don't think that's happening now since you've kind of took a big swing at Connor Murphy here. A third line center to fill in, I think would benefit this team quite a bit. And that's probably the next move they need to make. I don't think they're making a move in net. So, I'd probably third line center is your next spot.
Matt Hyman, expect this trade to be completed after 5 p.m. Eastern. I don't know where you're getting this one from because it looks like you copy and pasted it. If it's you, thank you for that. If not, I'd love to know where it's from, just the credit. Expect this trade to be completed after 5 p.m. Eastern, which is officially tomorrow for cap purposes. That would allow them to send down one of the players called up today, and either Szymanski or Howard to have the space needed for this trade. So that's why we're waiting for this deal to get done. But once again, the Edmonton Oilers look to be acquiring Connor Murphy, 50% retained in exchange for a 2028 Edmonton second-round pick. We'll wait for this a little bit more. Continue with your thoughts, River Crate inbox, or you could jump into the Nasty Chat. Benny, thank you for jumping on briefly here. We'll take a brief time out here on EST Afternoons on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue talking about this trade, getting your thoughts, and we'll spend, it's from Puckpedia. Thank you, Matt Hyman. We'll spend like 5 minutes. I'll keep it a little bit shorter, but we'll head to LA to find out about this Jim Hiller firing, and if the Edmonton Oilers are indeed coach killers. Well, he's not going to tell us that, but we'll talk to them about that. Let's get to a Koob Sports update. This is Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta.
Hockey insider Frank Saravalli saying trade call not expected to be formally completed until later tonight between the Oilers and Blackhawks, but a trade has been agreed. The Oilers to acquire Connor Murphy, 50% retention on his contract. The Blackhawks will receive a 2028 second round pick from Edmonton. And the Oilers earlier recalling Ike Howard and Josh Szymanski from the Condors, assigning Andrew Mangiapane and Alec Regula to the AHL. Other news, Matthias Janmark being placed on long-term injured reserve, and according to the fourth period's Dave Pagnotta, Janmark will have surgery Wednesday and will miss the remainder of the regular season. 6 games in the NHL today. Early third period action. We're nearing the midway point of the third period. Detroit up 3-2 over Nashville. And later on, the Kings and Avalanche face off. Zach Dooley, manager of editorial content for the Kings, stated that Drew Doughty will not play tonight while Yoel Mia undergoes an MRI. NFL news, ESPN reporting that the Commanders are set to release Marshawn Lattimore. With the move, Washington will save $18.5 million in cap space. To the association, it's the Celtics and Bucks hitting the deck. As per ESPN's Shams Charania, Giannis Antetokounmpo will return from a 15-game injury hiatus. He was out with a calf injury. And it's the Clippers and Warriors going at it, while Denver and Utah match up on a 4-game slate. This sports update is brought to you by the Capital Care Foundation. Financial support deeply affects residents at Capital Care, whether it's a one-time donation or monthly contribution. Every penny counts. Find out how you can donate at capitalcarefoundation.net. John Hoven from Mayor's Manor checks in on the other side of the break. I'm Zachary Koob, keeping you up to date.
When you cater with Royal Pizza, you're getting the same great pizzas, pastas, and salads you love, just bigger and built for a crowd. Perfect for teams, offices, or parties, Royal Pizza's catering brings real value around $10 per person. Delicious, high quality, and easy. If you like their pastas, you'll love their catering pastas even more. Visit royalpizza.ca or contact your local store for exact pricing and details.
So come on home, Royal Pizza, still making it great.
Sentinel Storage congratulates Team Canada for all their perseverance, dedication, and commitment. For representing our country so well, our athletes make us proud to call Canada home. Sentinel Storage, proudly Canadian and official storage partner of Team Canada.
River Cree Resort and Casino and K97 present the baddest show on earth. George Thorogood and the Destroyers, March 19th in the venue. Tickets at rivercreeresort.com.
River Cree Resort and Casino. Excitement. Bet on it.
Edmonton. Be part of history. Support Canada Soccer's men's national team as they battle Uzbekistan in the final send-off series ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Monday, June 1st at 7 p.m. at Commonwealth Stadium. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.ca.
Hey Edmonton, did you know a local Play Alberta winner scored over $430,000 on Desert Fantasy? Think about the rec room you could build with that kind of cash. From major casino winners every hour to jackpots worth millions and hundreds of popular games to money that stays in the province, there has never been a better time to sign up for Play Alberta. Download the app today to get started with casino, sports, and lottery, all in one app. Must be 18 plus to play. When you gamble, use your game sense. Back here on EST Afternoons, Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage. We're going to get to John Hoven, Mayor's Manor, coming up right away here. Just get a couple questions, quick in and out, find out what went on with the LA Kings of the firing of Jim Hiller. So we'll take just a little sidestep from the Edmonton Oilers, get back to it shortly after. 3 questions. That's what I have written down. I've circled from the question I had earlier. We're only going to go with 3 of them. So they'll be very, very quick on that one. The Edmonton Oilers, lots happening in a sense. Connor Murphy, 50% retained for 2028 second round pick from the Oilers. Smitty the Welder with an excellent question. Smitty, I'm going to try to remember that after this interview because I think you're right on that one. So it's an interesting point that I do want to get there. The Oilers also have Mangiapane and Regula cleared. They've been loaned to Bakersfield. Szymanski and Howard have been recalled, and Matthias Janmark has been put on LTIR. Because of that, the bonuses of Szymanski and Howard will be part of the LTIR. So when they're on the cap, it'll only be their entry-level contract, so it's a full cap savings thing that is going in there. I do want to get into the River Cree inbox with some texts in there, but let's take a couple minutes to head down to LA. John Hoven, mayorsmanor.com is joining us. He's also Kings of the Podcast with Dennis Bernstein, who's a friend of Edmonton Sports Talk. John, greatly appreciate the time. The news from the Kings this past weekend is the firing of Jim Hiller. DJ Smith can take over on an interim basis. I guess one of the biggest questions I would have is why do this after the Olympic break and not prior, where there's that extra week of practice time that a new coach or DJ Smith could have done to change some things? Why did this move happen after the Olympic break?
Well, let's also not forget Matt Green, former Oiler and LA King player, taking over as an assistant coach, his first opportunity behind the bench, which is interesting. But to answer your question, the timing is certainly curious because, there was a great window of opportunity to do this around the Christmas and holiday break. The Kings, who had, an over 600 points percentage at the American Thanksgiving in late November, just had a very tough December and things went off the rails. They could have done it then, could have done it again at the Olympic break, like you talked about, and given them sort of a real opportunity for a reset. However, it just wasn't a move that General Manager Ken Holland wanted to make. He was really committed. He was saying publicly and privately over the last 2 months that he was committed to keeping Jim Hiller through the end of the regular season, and that was his coach. But those 2 games coming out of the Olympic break, they were really ugly. And to be able to lose first to Vegas, essentially to their AHL team, their 5 top players were all out of the lineup coming back from the Olympics. The Kings had a 2-1 lead heading into the third. Gave that up, lost that game. That gets away from their defensive identity. And then the, horrific game against the Oilers, from a Kings perspective at least, the second night, that pretty much was the final deal. So the results forced Ken Holland's hand, and here we are. Is it too little, too late? I guess we're about to find out over these final 20-plus games.
What are the biggest things DJ Smith needs to do to turn this Kings around and get to the playoffs? Like, what are the things he needs to do that maybe they weren't getting from Jim Hiller in your eyes?
Show some energy. This team has looked lethargic most nights and hasn't put together, the proverbial 60-minute effort nearly for any stretch at all throughout the regular season. They've shown flashes of having a good period or maybe a good 40 minutes, but putting together 3, 4, 5, consistent 60-minute efforts over the course of whether you're talking about a homestand or even out on the road hasn't been the case. They've looked really good against certain teams, especially earlier in the year, not so much of late, but just getting some energy, look alive. And, from there, it comes down to getting some production out of a handful of guys that are having down years, whether you're talking about Anze Kopitar, who hasn't put up his consistent numbers, whether you're talking about Quentin Byfield, who hasn't looked like the same player that he was a couple of years, the past couple of years, Warren Fogle, Trevor Moore, the list goes on and on. There have been some injuries along the way, but still, guys have not been producing at their historical offensive levels, and that has contributed to, a lot of the losses as well.
You mentioned former Oiler there, who's been with this Kings now for a very long time, won cups, has been in the organization as a scout. Matt Green now on the bench. Why did you call attention to that as we came on? Is this a sign of? Do you think that the future for him on the bench with the LA Kings?
Well, I think it's really interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, no. Everything that has ever been indicated sort of around Matt Green when it comes to sort of a coaching role in the NHL or even in the American League for that matter, it was never really something that he was said to be interested in. So it caught a lot of people by surprise here in Los Angeles. The second reason would be there's nobody scarier than Matt Green. You want to talk about accountability. This is a guy who, he was front and center when it came to holding those guys accountable during the successful years, 2012, 2014. We could talk about Dustin Brown. We can talk about, Mike Richards and other guys in the room that wore letters and were part of that leadership group. But make no mistake about it, Matt Green was a key part to that locker room for many, many years and was very well respected and commands accountability. He's a very serious type person. Obviously, he's sarcastic and funny off the ice, but he takes hockey very seriously, and he's been a wonderful addition to the development group over the last couple of years. He's been on ice with players, especially young defensemen, guys like Brant Clark, which it was called out during the press conference over the weekend. Matt Green even in this short stint, I think will have an impact on the roster. And perhaps the time has changed. Perhaps he is more open to it. Perhaps he wants to just use this as a test run. Nobody really knows. Green doesn't talk to the media, so you sort of only get information behind closed doors, behind the scenes, whispers and whatnot. But very interested to see where this goes for Matt Green for that key word that I mentioned there, accountability, as it relates to this LA Kings organization.
Final question, about $13 million or so in cap space for the LA Kings in advance of Friday's deadline. What type of moves do you think Ken Holland's looking at or wanting to bring in? What type of players to help try to maybe bolster this team, to give DJ Smith maybe a little extra to try to get back into the playoffs?
Yeah, one of the things that caught a lot of headlines in Holland's press conference was that he doesn't view the 2026 first-round pick in play, and that Panarin might have been his big move. He's also tried to indicate in previous conversations over the last couple of weeks that when it comes to looking for a center, they might have to do that type of a move over the summer. However, all indications are they're still really in deep on Pettersson, and that there could be an opportunity for a trade there with Vancouver. We'll have to see where that goes. Their preference is to go right shot. There are very few available on the market, if any, that they can afford. So you take the 2026 first rounder off the table. They still have some assets to play with, including Carter George, one of the top goaltending prospects that's out there and available. They have their 2027 first rounder, et cetera. So there are some ways to put a deal together. I would anticipate that they're going to go out and get at least one or two depth players, just because you have so many guys from Kevin Fiala, Kuzmenko, et cetera, out of the lineup that they're not going to want to call everybody up from AHL Ontario. We'll just have to wait and see if what Holland has said, that he's all but done shopping, is true, or if he just tinkers on the margins.
John, greatly appreciates the stuff. You can find him mayorsmanor.com, Kings of the Podcast with Dennis Bernstein. Appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, boys. We'll talk to you soon.
John Hoven, mayorsmanor.com, as I said right there. Sorry, I lied too. I said I was going to only have 3 questions, but then he brought a Matt Green, so I wanted to go to the Matt Green, so I had four questions there, so apologies. That was on the Oil Country Towing Hotline. John did join us. Smitty the Welder said, Matty, what does the retained money do for the playoffs? Isn't the full cap hit come playoff time? That's what I thought. So that is a great question. The money is retained for the rest of this season, but when you have to be cap compliant come playoff time, I thought you were correct that it has to be based off of the full cap hit. So the thing though I would lead me to believe though is, especially with the moves today, is it just easy then that, okay, well, an Adam Henrique would just be out of the lineup come playoff time. You go with a Howard or a Szymanski. Or maybe more likely a Szymanski. And the money works that way. But that is something to remember too, that while the cap would be good for the rest of the season, you've got to find a way to put his full $4.4 million on your NHL roster or your roster for that game. So that's something, and that's why this trade deadline is going to be a fascinating deadline. It's something many of us, it wasn't just me, but many others, you listeners, people across the hockey world on Twitter and stuff, this deadline is going to be an interesting deadline because this will be the first time we are dealing with the playoffs will be, you got to be cap compliant for your game day roster. And how's that all going to play out? How are we going to figure all these things out? How many teams, how aggressive our team's going to be? Where are the loopholes somebody is going to try to find? You know, someone's trying to look into that one. So it's going to be an interesting one, but that is a good point, something that we'll have to pay attention to. Mick Levin saying no Henrique in playoffs. Yeah, so maybe that's just as simple as that. Adam Henrique, he won't play in the playoffs. And you go with forward groups. Your other 12 guys, boom, there's your money. That's how it fully works out. Players on the ice, so scratches don't count against the cap. No, absolutely. We know, but like you have 4.4 now you've added to your blue line, and you didn't send anyone out in that sense. You know, and the Oilers were so up against it. So that's where that's coming. That was from Angry Ticks in the nasty chat. The rookie, yeah, but at playoff time, it's just the roster has to be under the cap. You don't have to worry about dead cap space, such as Campbell's. Oh, that's an excellent point. I didn't even think that part through. You're 100% right. So, and then that also goes to it's not the scratches and things like that. So, Mangiapane's 2.45 would be off your books in a way. Jack Campbell's 2.3 would be off your books. So plenty of money to make that work. So, Smitty, I didn't answer your question there, but I think the other ones answered it for you there. It would easily be cap compliant with some of those players gone. Just right there, the Jack Campbell part would be a big part of that for the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, Haji. Isn't it just the team on the ice has to be compliant? You could sit guys who aren't performing up to their contracts. You can't do that in the regular season. Rip City. I heard the buyouts do count. And then Penner's Pancakes. Reduced cap hit applies. When a player is acquired with salary retained, the acquiring team only carries the reduced cap hit on their books. This reduced amount is what counts toward the playoff cap. Now I'm getting confused again. Let me read that one again from Penner's Pancakes. Reduced cap hit applies. When a player is acquired with salary retained, the acquiring team only carries the reduced cap hit on their books. This reduced amount is what counts towards the playoff cap. Okay. I was under the assumption that there was something where if they're salary retained, it were like your cap hit was supposed to be, or at one point something was talked about, it would be your original cap hit. But if that's the case, then it's still only the 2.2 that applies to Connor Murphy. The NHL should just put out like a frequent asked questions thing and explain it all for us in very layman's terms. Amish Man 19, I have no idea what this cap hit for playoffs will look like. It should be much simpler than it seems it is. Yeah, I would agree. Wouldn't that be nice? As for the trade, Travis, Connor Murphy with retention for just a second. I'll give it an A if he resigns, a C+ if he doesn't. Bones chimes in the River Cree inbox. Happy that it wasn't Falk or OEL. Murphy I like and could be a decent bet to resign in the offseason if it goes well. Yeah, Haji, that would be awful for trades, especially on multi-year deals. But that's why it was very interesting. I think he's saying... Okay, I actually sent a few messages. You sit your injured players out until the playoffs. The loophole isn't fully closed. That'd be awful for trades, especially on multi-year deals. I know it did seem weird that if you had retention, that it would be the full cap hit. But that was floated out there. But it would be nice if... Okay, I'll just say this. I'm a type of learner that likes to see things in action. Seeing how it all plays out this playoffs it'll help solve things and figure things out for all of us here. Because I'm assuming it's the first time. So I'm assuming even the GMs have some questions about various things that come up. Yeah, I agree with Chris, Thomas, man. I just trust whatever Puckpedia puts out there. And then Chris, Puckpedia isn't always right. There have been times where I just go, either something didn't seem right or it didn't answer my question. It just made me have more questions. Just like what I am doing right now.
And another reason why Cap Friendly should still be around.
Well, but even then, I don't think they would have helped us right now. Although the Oilers have someone from Cap Friendly.
I guess that's true. I mean, work on the inside. Like the way they change this about, it is hard to grasp. They do need that FAQ page though for fans alike and people who want to play, GM as things really ramp up toward playoffs and everything else. Like the way that Puckpedia has it laid out, they said they took the last playoff game of 2025 between the Oilers and Panthers as well, and they said like the Oilers would have been over $7 million below the playoff cap in Game 6 had the new rules been in effect, and the Panthers would have been above the playoff cap by like $5 million. So it'll be interesting to see how still teams adjust and as injuries go along. Like you said on Puckpedia that they were saying that dead cap counts. Like it still counts toward that cap, right? Because it must.
Sorry, what was that?
Dead capped for
the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know now.
Here it is. Dead cap that's occurred during the season counts toward the playoff.
So that's still on. So a buyout would still be on your playoff roster.
That's what it says here.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Well, if the whole purpose of a playoff cap is so that you have to field a compliant roster. Well, that's part of it, is that you had these extra, throughout the season, you had to be cap compliant, that it would have to be somewhat the same. But it looks like Connor Murphy would just be 2.2 in the end.
With that 50% retention. Yeah, exactly. This is what they say here. This means that if a player had buried cap for the part of the season, the accumulated cap hit charged during the season counts as a playoff cap hit, regardless of if that player plays or is even still with the team.
Okay, so Mangiapane is incurring potential cap for the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers? The way you read that? Can you read that again?
Yeah, I'll read that again. This means if a player had a buried cap hit for part of the season, the accumulated cap hit charged during the season counts as a playoff cap hit, regardless of if that player plays or is still even with or on the team.
So what that says to me is, because right now, Andrew Mangiapane's contract, even on Puckpedia, is showing he is being buried. So for however long he's being buried, if they trade him on Friday, the Oilers will have, depending on how they fully calculate, I'm assuming 5 days worth of Andrew Mangiapane's buried contract on their cap come playoff time.
Yeah, the Panthers, they use everything from last year here on Puckpedia as an example. So they said, for example, Spencer Knight had a buried cap hit of 3.35 on the first day of the regular season for Florida in 24-25. This means that Florida would have a playoff cap hit of $17,000 for that, even though he was traded and no longer on the roster. So exactly as you mentioned. So I'm not sure exactly the full numbers on that, but it will somehow affect the Oilers and any other team who really makes a move in a similar sense if Mangiapane does end up moving.
Next, Pizzozu, let's try to make the playoffs first before you worry about playoff salary cap. I still am I'm still not wavering on the Oilers. I look at, here's the one reason I don't waver on the Edmonton Oilers. And I could be Mr. Downside, as I've done a few times. Like whenever I look at the standings, I do look at worst case. These teams win their games in hand. The Oilers would be sitting out of a playoff spot. I'm also not sold on all of Utah, Seattle, San Jose, Nashville, and LA playing so good down the last quarter of this season, staying up there, that they're going to knock the Oilers out. And even then, 3 of those teams would have to outduel the Oilers. One of them would have to be a Pacific team. So either Seattle, San Jose, or LA would have to find a way to knock the Oilers out of the Pacific. And then Utah / Nashville or Nashville, along with those Pacific teams, could knock them out. I just am not sold that Utah, Seattle, San Jose, Nashville, LA are teams that are necessarily going to go off on these major runs throughout March and into April, while the Oilers stumble and the Edmonton Oilers are going to be without a playoff spot. And at least to the Oilers' credit, fair amount of divisional games that are still to be had. So there are 4-point nights. They got Vegas on the 8th. They got the Sharks on the 17th. Even if we're talking wild card, Utah on the 24th, Ducks on the 28th, missed the Vegas on 26th, Seattle on the 31st. They're not getting completely swept in those. So will those teams be able to just continue and be solid? I'm not sold on them. I think the West is quite weak. Bruins fan Chris, Oilers are going to go 11-13. That will leave them out of the playoffs. I'd have to do the math to see what the other teams are doing. 11-3, yeah, that'd probably put them pretty close at missing the playoffs. But I guess we play these hockey games for a reason. And we'll see what else the Edmonton Oilers do in advance of Friday's deadline. We'll have you covered throughout the rest of this week, as well as on Friday for the NHL Trade Deadline. A reminder for those that are just tuning in, here's what's happened. The Edmonton Oilers, Mangiapane, Regula, they cleared, sent to Bakersfield, loaned to Bakersfield. You've got Szymanski, you've got Howard that have been called up. Matthias Janmark has been placed on LTIR. With that, it just helps with the cap situation when it comes to Szymanski and Howard. Also, Elliot Friedman, Frank Saravalli, Mark Spector have all reported out there that the Edmonton Oilers are getting close and talks are intensifying at some point tonight or later this afternoon. Connor Murphy from the Chicago Blackhawks retained at 50%, so it'd be $2.2 million on the cap, coming to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for a 2028 second round pick. I'm Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, and Joaquin Gage alongside Zachary Koob Kubusch. On the other side, we will continue. Oh, Oh, that's a trade alert. TSN trade alert just said are set to acquire. I thought maybe they had it. They still just set to acquire. So it's still not 100% done. When we come back, we'll continue in the River Cree inbox. We'll continue in the nasty chat as well as the screw it. Let's do a parlay for Play Alberta. Here's Koob with the sports update here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton Sports.
As per multiple sources, the Oilers and Blackhawks have agreed to trade Connor Murphy at 50% retained. His current contract, $4.4 million, the final year of his deal for the 33-year-old. He's headed to Edmonton for a 2028 second-round pick to Chicago. Earlier, the Oilers have recalled Ike Howard and Josh Szymanski from the Condors to signing Andrew Mangiapane and Alec Regula to the AHL. Other news, Matthias Janmark hits long-term injured reserve as per the fourth period's David Pagnotta. Janmark will have surgery Wednesday and will miss the remainder of the regular season. A total of 4 games in the NHL nearing the end of regulation. Red Wings leading the Predators 3-2, empty net for Nashville. And later, the Kings and Avalanche face off. Zach Dooley, manager of editorial content for the Kings, stating that Drew Doughty will not play tonight while Yoel Armia undergoes an MRI. NFL News, ESPN has reported that the Commanders are set to release Marshawn Lattimore. With the move, Washington will save $18.5 million in cap space. To the association, Celtics and Bucks, they tip off. ESPN Shams Charania reporting that Giannis Antetokounmpo will return after being sidelined with a calf injury for the past 15 games. The final segment of EST Afternoons brings us back following the break. I'm Zachary Koob, keeping you in the loop.
When gambling, set a budget before you play. Stay informed and visit GameSenseAB.ca to learn how. Remember, if you gamble, use your game sense.
The road to the FIFA World Cup runs through Edmonton. See Canada Soccer's men's national team before they take on the world this summer. Canada versus Uzbekistan. June 1st, 7 p.m., Commonwealth Stadium. Tickets at Ticketmaster.ca.
Real fans don't stroll in at puck drop. They claim territory. They study the screens. They get into their spot, which is why this matters. The Canadian Brewhouse now has happy hour. Brand new, tons of options, and the good stuff like our 8-inch 2-topping RCM pizza and our signature Caesar. Monday to Saturday, 2 till 6 p.m. starting at $3.99. That's more than enough reason to come early. New happy hour at the Canadian Brewhouse. If you're serious about game day, we'll see you for happy hour.
You've heard the name, but what does it mean? For over 66 years, William Huff Advertising has supplied signage from screen printing to digital to LED with design, production, and install in-house. It's a one-stop shop for all your signage needs. Edmonton owned and operated, William Huff has been trusted by the biggest companies and teams in the City of Champions and many others across the country to do the job. If you're looking for a way to get the word out about your company or event, they are the answer. Go to www.williamhuff.com. Their results speak for themselves.
At Firehouse Subs, our subs are freshly toasted, stacked high, and crafted to satisfy. Each sub is piled high with premium meats, melty cheese, and toasted to perfection. Firehouse Subs brings bold flavor to every bite, all served on a freshly toasted roll. But we're not just feeding Edmonton, we're fueling it. Dig into the brisket hat trick, piled with slow-smoked brisket and melty cheese. Or go to the Firehouse Subs fan favorite, the Hook and Ladder. Made to order with smoked turkey, honey ham, and Monterey Jack cheese on a perfectly toasted roll. With 15 Firehouse Sub locations across Edmonton and the greater area, it's easy to grab a hot and hearty sub close to home. Firehouse Subs. Hot, hearty, made to satisfy.
Back here on EST Afternoons, Matt Iwanyk in for Hernan, Salas, Joaquin, Gage here in the William Huff studio on the west end of town. The William Huff studio presented by William Huff. Visit their website, williamhuff.com. Give them a shout. 780-454-4536. They've provided industry-leading advertising solutions for thousands of value clients. I'm seeing a couple comments in the nasty chat. BC getting off of clock changes. They're moving to permanent daylight time. They'll spring forward this weekend, but not move back next November, which means we will be the same time zone as them as of the winter. So in the winter time, from November, I think it is, late October, early November until March, we will be the exact same time zone as BC. They'll be the same as us. And then the rest of the year will always be an hour ahead. The Pacific side doesn't change. I do know this. There have been a lot of studies that say if you are to remove your clocks, this is not the one, and this is not good. That you want to do, like, it's when you fall back, whatever time that is, that's the time if you want to get rid of clocks. They've done massive studies about this. There's been places, I think there was a place in Russia. There's another place that did it, and they actually removed it because it didn't go well. It is not good for whatever. I can't remember the full details of it, but go read up on it. If you are actually, this is the wrong time zone that the BC province is sticking with based on what the studies have shown that if you're going to remove it. And that's one of the reasons why Alberta hasn't changed is I think part of it is we don't want to give up our hour, that extra hour in the summer. Because that's doing it. We want to jump forward. We want to spring ahead. But if you stay when you spring ahead, apparently it isn't the proper time zone to change. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out in BC. Obviously, their own province. Jasmine saying Washington has not changed. Well, of course they haven't changed. They're a different state in a different country. BC is going to do their own thing, and we'll see what happens in the United States. I don't know the full appetite of the United States changing some things. But we'll wait and see, and we'll see if a lot of people. This is going to how this impacts things, and it doesn't fully change us now. Outside of we know it's like Saskatchewan in a way for Alberta now. Well, no, we know that half the year we're the same as Saskatchewan, the other half we're an hour behind. Half the year, or no, now the math's not correct there. When it comes to BC, part of the time we will be an hour ahead. Part of the time we'll be the exact same. So during November, December, January, February, because we will fall back and they'll be sprung ahead. The Oilers won't play 8 o'clock games in Vancouver. They'll be playing 7 o'clock games. That's how it would kind of work out. I'll be intrigued to see how this goes there in BC. I have no problem with the time change. It doesn't really bother me. But yeah, again, go look on the studies. It does say that this one, if you're going to do this, it's when you fall back, you stay. You stay on that one. It's not when you spring ahead. We need to get to Screw It, Let's Do It parlay for Play Alberta. Download the app, visit playalberta.ca. EST Specials is where all of our stuff get loaded, including the upcoming Screw It, Let's Do It parlay. Play the music, Koob. Koob, starting with you. I know you guys always do a rotation. I'm starting with you. I've been starting with you.
We never really follow that anyway. Hernan's always like, is it me? It goes clockwise. It's
2 of 5 last week, 40%. Decent week. You would want a little bit higher than that. But we want to hit the lock shop. 2 parlays I had on the lock shop. Those hit last week at least. Koob, where are you going tonight?
Well, 8 o'clock puck drop in Vancouver. It's the Dallas Stars on the road to face the Canucks. Stars winning 8 in a row. Canucks have dropped their past 5 games. And player that sticks out to me, Miro Heiskanen. The last 5 games, he's recorded at least an assist in 2 of those games with a pair of assists as well. I'm going to go with a Miro Heiskanen assist against the Canucks tonight.
I wish I was on EST afternoons tomorrow so I could have do the research and come in on this. Nolan from St. Albert. Man, who cares about the studies? I like the long evenings in the summer. I get you. And if we stick, I would prefer from the spring forward. But there's a reason that it just doesn't, you'll be, apparently, or some places that have done it, they got annoyed by it in the end. But I'd have to read on it. You've got the Heiskanen point. Is that what you said? Or assist?
Assist, specifically.
Assist. Well, so we're going specifically with the assist. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to a game. I'm just going straight picking money line game. One team's won 5 straight, but they're on the road. They're taking on a team 6-4. Their last 10, they're off of a win. not the best opponent they've won, but came out of the break with a couple big losses. And that's the Carolina Hurricanes in Seattle taking on the Kraken. As I said, I'm just not sold on this Kraken team. And the Carolina Hurricanes, we can say what we want about when it comes to the playoffs and the conference finals, but during the regular season, they know how to win. They sit atop the Metropolitan Division. They actually currently sit atop the Eastern Conference entirely at 82 points. So straight up, I am taking the Carolina Hurricanes on a money line. You had okay, I need to try to see, can I get the assist in here?
If not, I'll go with the point.
Assist. No, but so right now, Hurricanes money line, Heiskanen assist is plus 177.
That's not bad.
I'm curious if we have anything else.
Well, okay, for Seattle coming out of the break, they played 3 games. Their first 2 games, they were only able to get 1 goal in each of those games.
Were they not both 5-1?
4-1 Stars over Kraken, then 5-1 loss to the Blues for Seattle, and then they beat the Canucks. I mean, on Saturday, but
that's Vancouver Canucks.
That's a Vancouver Canucks. 5-1 win in that one. So,
well, you wanted to just take the Stars straight up.
I was thinking that. I mean, 8 in a row, and yet again, like Vancouver way at the bottom there in the West. Just 18 wins on the season, 5 losses in a row. Why not go with the hot hand, like the hottest team in the NHL, and go with the Stars? Now, they did win in a shootout fashion 3-2 against the Predators in their most recent game on Saturday.
Koob, do you know what a number approximately would be? Because I have to look. Stars money line, Hurricanes money line, Heiskanen assist.
So what was it with the assist?
I had 177.
177?
Yeah. So we're just going to add a Dallas Stars money line, which is about minus 200.
Yeah, I would say what, plus 250?
Plus 244.
Plus 244.
With the boost, we're probably looking plus 250, plus 255.
Yeah, that's okay.
You want to know what I say to that?
I'm hitting that big time.
Screw it. Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it. That's what we're going to send in.
There we go.
We'll send Dallas money line, Carolina money line, Heiskanen 1+ assist. Reminder. Okay, so no, I always say reminder. It's not reminder. Just for those joining, here's what's happened with the Edmonton Oilers today. Mangiapane, Regula waived, loaned to Bakersfield. Szymanski, Howard brought up, recalled from Bakersfield. Matthias Janmark, LTIR. Dave Pignotta says on Wednesday he's going to have surgery, going to be done for the rest of the regular season. The Edmonton Oilers are closing in on a deal. They need to wait for apparently the 5 p.m. to hit, because then it's the new cap day in the NHL. And then they'd be able to send Szymanski or Howard down. When they do that, they could then get a deal done with the Chicago Blackhawks, which Mark Spector, Elliot Friedman, and Frank Saravalli have been on. It's the Oilers getting defenseman Connor Murphy, 50% retained, which means it'd be 2.2 coming to Edmonton for a 2028 second round pick. Reed Wilkins, Jay Milne, they'll have more of this coverage through the next 3 hours. Oh, do you know what else they have on the show today, Coop?
No, not specifically.
Okay, I should have went to ask them last segment. I forgot to do that. They're just going to have a fun time for 3 hours. We know that. Reed was at Stan Bowman's press conference, so he'll always give his thoughts on Stan Bowman's thoughts from earlier today. Want to thank our guest today, Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star. It was so good to speak to him again. John Hoven from mayorsmanor.com. Koob, last 6 shows, they've been wonderful. Really enjoyed working with you. These were a fun time. I enjoy these afternoons with you. Excellent job through all 6 shows, all of last week and today. So thank you very much for everything that you do on the other side of the camera. Hernan, Gage, they're back in these chairs tomorrow. I'm on the Hangout tomorrow with Dave Jameson and Dee Millard. I would also just like to thank every single one of you who've listened today, even last week as well. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for jumping into the Nasty Chat as well as the River Creek inbox. Thanks for dealing with me trying to figure out this cap. If there's one thing I definitely don't know, it's the cap stuff. Try and understand. Don't understand it. So apologies if I confused you with some of those things. Other people know it better than I do. But we'll get through it together. Thank you everyone for tuning in to EST Afternoons right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta. Reed, Jay, Koob, coming up next. Don't go anywhere.